with me is a professional race car driver and the founder of Metam, Marlon Stockinger. Thank you so much for, of course, accepting our invite to even feature M1 Championship League here today. And welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Erika. I hope you're enjoying so far.
Yeah.
As you know, we're sitting actually on the racetrack itself here at Metam, so really cool that we can do this interview.
Yeah, pretty cool, I must say. The moment I stepped inside the warehouse, I was just in awe of your setup.
Yeah.
And I remember you were telling me that you set this whole place up in 10 months, is that correct?
Yeah, so actually the whole idea or concept of Metam was on a piece of paper, I'd say like maybe 14 months ago.
Wow.
And then from us building the circuit and setting up, all the rigs, all the cars, that's recently happened in the last, I'd say, 4 months. So it's been a crazy adventure so far, but it's just awesome that we're here now and able to do this.
I bet. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your professional race car driving experience, because I know that you've been a pro for almost 25 years now, is that correct?
Yeah, since I was basically a toddler.
Exactly, well, basically a toddler.
Yeah.
So how was the transition of you being a pro in the field of race car driving and now being one of the founders of Metam? How was that transition for you like?
I think it was really amazing. I'm very lucky, I think, to find like my identity outside of just holding the wheel in my hands, when I go racing. I've always thought about just building something beyond like the racing career. And I think in our sport, we're quite lucky because we can race basically until the wheels fall off, like 50, 60. So I still have a lot of time ahead of myself. And using my experiences there, racing in go-karts, Formula cars, driving a Formula One car, working with F1 teams, doing punditry for Formula One, like in broadcasting as well. I thought all this useful experience, all these life lessons could come into use, and thankfully it culminated in this wonderful creation that we've done here with Metam.
Right, and speaking of creation, Marlon, can you tell us how exactly Metam can recreate like the actual race car driving experience?
So I think really the most important aspect for it was we wanted to make racing inclusive, right? There's only a certain percentage of the world, maybe like 0.01, I mean, don't quote me on the numbers, but like a small percentage of the population really understand what it's like to race at the highest level.
Right.
And there are obviously challenges. Motorsport can be expensive. But I think with like our governing bodies, like the FIA, the racing series that we've all been participating in, and the rise of gaming and esports,
right,
I think it's very much humbled the sport. So in that essence, like we really focused on providing a unique new innovation and experience where we kind of like merged both worlds of, let's say, video gaming and real life racing all together.
Yeah, so, very exciting.
Yeah.
All right, now you talked a little bit about Metam, but how can this truly impact the sport itself? How do you think can it impact race car driving?
Yeah, well, I think again, the main aspect is we're very unique with our concept. So with like a usual video game, you normally like log into the game and you have this virtual world. In this scenario, we have a game client where, the drivers, the players, gamers, they log in, but this actually logs them into the real world.
Right.
So literally, we're actually using a real racetrack, like what you're seeing here.
Really cool.
And then you're using real cars, which are scaled cars. We use 1/7 scale vehicles. So we work with real world physics. Like if you hit the wall, the car gets damaged. And in a video game, it's so easy to just press restart.
Right.
And you don't feel those consequences. So there are some negative feedback here without obviously the driver getting hurt. But I see it as being like a better training tool because it teaches you like to be patient. It makes you realize like, oh, I can't just thrash around my car like you would in the real world because it could get damaged or I could get hurt.
All right. Now let's jump into the M1 Championship League.
Yeah.
So how does it work? Can you walk us through how does it work? What are the mechanics? How can people join?
So, I mean, the M1 Championship League is kind of like our little sports property that we started, and really the best way to kind of get everybody interested to provide a platform also for the drivers, the teams, you know, their logos, like the track logos that we have here. It's really a culmination of everything we've built so far, and really, you know, testing it at the pinnacle, which is people, drivers, gamers, the teams racing against each other, and all fighting for a trophy at the end, you know. And then we wanted to create this competitive environment where people could test the limits of the car. And what better way to do that through competition or sport, you know?
Right.
I think that's a wonderful way we can get people interested, grow the community.
So in terms of the technicalities of this league, what are the mechanics specifically? Like, is it a round robin first, or do you team up players? Like, how does it go?
So yeah, like we opened registration, I think, a month before we started round one.
Okay.
Teams and drivers were able to sign up. I think like one of the coolest signups that we have is that we, as Metam Motors, runs an M1 team. And this is kind of like a grassroots program where we just, whoever's interested has the opportunity to join. They don't need a budget. We run the cars for them. And they just get kind of like this wonderful, you know, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, golden ticket. Like you get the chance to race with some of the best drivers and gamers here in the Philippines and compete. So that's really nice.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So Marlon, what is the end goal? Let's say, for example, you already have a champion for the first season of the M1 Championship League. Now, what is the end goal for this specific player? Do you wish to bring them abroad to compete with other players from all around the world, or what's the plan here?
So, I mean, we've obviously set our wheels here in motion in the Philippines, but I do believe that this is a global project.
Yes.
That will have several racetracks all throughout the world. That's actually why we focused on teleoperation, using 5G to connect to the cars, which is, you know, kind of unheard of, but I mean, we're not the first with the technology, but we're definitely the first putting it together in this type of setting or concept. We also use, obviously, Wi-Fi or internet to connect to the cars, which is what we do here in the warehouse. And then eventually, by establishing the first league in the Philippines, we'll have several across Southeast Asia, and eventually a global championship. So you could join in, anybody who's just interested, they could drive the car. We'll see that later. But going fast and mastering it is actually very hard.
Right.
So I think that's where we have like a wonderful philosophy here, because you see when the players practice, they put their time and effort, you know, they work with their team, they actually think about how to set up the car. There's a difference, you know.
Okay, so let's say before the players come on to the league to actually compete against each other, do you also hold training sessions for them prior?
Yeah, so we have like practice sessions, open practice days.
And who are the players that you have currently for the first season of the M1 Championship League? Are they usually esports gamers? Are they actual race drivers?
No, I mean, we like to include everybody.
Okay.
I think what's wonderful about our league is we already have like 4 girl racers that have been participating with us. Because I think, you know, like the car, well, in this case, our car is battery. The battery or the engine doesn't know if you're a girl or a boy.
Right.
So here, like, it's all about talent and as hard as you want to work. So we like to have everybody involved. I think that's been a cool thing.
All right. Now that you've said what you said about Metam Motors, of course, and of course your M1 Championship League. Now, here's a hot take, Marlon. I want to know, do you think teleoperated racing can ever compete or rival against live motorsport events on a professional level, eventually?
Well, whether we'll get to that point, I think only time will tell, to be honest, because every year that goes by, technology just gets better.
Yeah.
I think still the purest aspect is the human in the car itself. There's nothing more in terms of like emotion, experience. Nothing obviously beats that.
Adrenaline.
I know that feeling myself.
Yeah.
But in terms of creating more accessibility, that's definitely, I think, what we're doing here. And in terms of innovating technology, I mean, it's just this type of environment. I really like to look at racing as the pinnacle of human ideas and development being pushed in like a laboratory, which is basically like the racetrack.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the very insightful conversation, Marlon. I feel like we got to know you a little bit more, and of course, your M1 Championship League.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
Erika. You're gonna drive next.
Yeah. Oh my God,
It's
I'm
your
so
turn
scared.
now.
Okay. Thank
Cool.
you.